Ethiopian Investment Holdings, which is a strategic investment.
When the announcement was made in Addis Ababa, it was not just another ribbon cutting, not just another signing ceremony. It was a declaration of intent. Ethiopia, in partnership with Nigeria's Dangote Group, Africa's largest industrial conglomerate, unveiled a $2.5 billion agreement that could transform not only Ethiopia's economy but the entire African food system. The project? A fertilizer production complex in Ethiopia's Somali regional state, set to be one of the largest on the planet. For Ethiopia, a nation long associated with food insecurity, drought, and rising fertilizer bills, this was no ordinary business deal. It was a bold proclamation of independence, a factory of unprecedented scale. The numbers themselves are staggering. Once completed, the plant in Gode will produce 3 million metric tons of urea fertilizer annually. To put that into perspective, Ethiopia's entire fertilizer consumption in past years has been far below that number. That means the new facility won't just meet local demand, it will produce a massive surplus. This surplus positions Ethiopia not as a buyer begging for supplies, but as a regional exporter with leverage across East Africa and the Horn. In a world where fertilizer markets have been shaken by wars, supply chain disruptions, and soaring energy prices, this project is more than an industrial win. It's a strategic shield against dependency. African ownership at the core. Equally significant is the ownership structure. This is not the usual story of foreign investors walking away with the profits while host nations watch. Instead, the Dangote Group holds 60%, while Ethiopia's own sovereign wealth fund, Ethiopian Investment Holdings, owns 40%. That means the influence, the control, and the profits stay in African hands. It's a balance of Nigerian industrial power with Ethiopian sovereignty, a Pan-African model of partnership where Africans write the rules of the game instead of being dictated to by outsiders. Powered by Ethiopia's own gas, the mechanics of the project are ambitious. A pipeline system will transport natural gas directly from Ethiopia's underutilized Kalab and Halala reserves, feeding the fertilizer plant. That decision is crucial. It ensures Ethiopia won't be dependent on foreign inputs. Instead, the country will convert its underground gas wealth into agricultural power. The construction timeline is clear: 40 months. If deadlines are met, the plant could be operational in under 4 years, instantly changing Ethiopia's industrial landscape. The announcement, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed was blunt. This is a decisive step toward food sovereignty. His words resonated deeply because Ethiopia, like much of Africa, has been trapped in a vicious cycle, importing fertilizer at exorbitant costs, leaving farmers unable to maximize yields. Now Ethiopia is turning gas into fertilizer and fertilizer into food. The fertilizer battlefield. But why does fertilizer matter so much? Because agriculture is both Africa's greatest strength and its greatest vulnerability. More than 60% of Africans rely on farming for their livelihood. And yet, the continent imports billions of dollars worth of fertilizer every year from suppliers in Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. This dependency has become a chokehold. When international prices spike, whether from the war in Ukraine, shipping disruptions in the Red Sea, or currency devaluations, African farmers are the first to suffer. The result? Smaller harvests, higher food prices, and entire nations scrambling to import grain. According to the African Development Bank, fertilizer use in Africa averages just 17 kilograms per hectare. Compare that to over 100 kilograms in South Asia, and the gap becomes clear. It's not that Africa's soil is barren, it's that fertilizer is scarce. And without fertilizer, yields collapse. That is why this Ethiopian project is so revolutionary. It is not just about producing chemicals, it is about seizing control of the most critical link in the food chain. Gode. From forgotten frontier to fertilizer hub. Now let's talk about strategy. Why did Ethiopia choose Gode in the Somali region for this megaproject? For decades, the Somali region was seen as peripheral, remote, marginalized, often in the headlines for conflict rather than development. But beneath its arid soil lay untapped natural gas reserves. By locating the plant in Gode, right next to these reserves, Ethiopia ensures a steady, cost-effective supply of gas to feed the factory, and location matters. Gode sits near the Djibouti corridor, meaning fertilizer can be exported quickly to East Africa, the Red Sea, and even the Gulf. Kenya, Sudan, and Djibouti are within easy reach in one move. Ethiopia transforms gold from a forgotten frontier into the beating heart of its agricultural industrial future. Jobs, skills, and a new future for the Somali region. The project is not just about fertilizer, it's about people. The Somali region, long sidelined, will now stand at the center of Ethiopia's industrial future. Construction alone will create thousands of jobs. Once operational, thousands more will be employed directly and indirectly. For young people in the Somali region, this means opportunity. It means stability. It means purpose. And beyond wages, the project brings something even more valuable: skills. Fertilizer production requires expertise in chemical engineering, industrial management, and maintenance. Ethiopian technicians, engineers, and students will train alongside Dangote's experts, gaining knowledge that will ripple across industries for generations. Ethiopia as a regional power, the ripple effects extend far beyond Ethiopia's borders. Once the plant is online, Ethiopia will shift from being a passive buyer to a regional supplier with influence. Countries like Kenya, Sudan, and Djibouti, currently dependent on foreign fertilizer imports, will now look to Ethiopia. This translates into diplomatic capital. Just as oil-rich nations use energy to project power, Ethiopia will gain leverage through food security. In a region where food inflation sparks protests and governments wobble under pressure, control over fertilizer is control over stability itself. Breaking the cycle of dependency for decades, Africa has exported raw materials, coffee, cocoa, oil, and gas, only to import finished products at inflated prices. This project flips the script. Ethiopia will take its raw gas, process it into fertilizer, and export it. It is Pan-Africanism not in words, but in steel, pipelines, and production lines. It is proof that Africans can solve African challenges with African capital and expertise. The symbolism of Nigeria and Ethiopia, two of Africa's most powerful nations, joining hands cannot be ignored. This is more than a deal. It is a continental statement. Fertilizer is sovereignty. Ultimately, fertilizer is not just about farming. It is about sovereignty. History has shown us that empires rise and fall not only by the sword, but by their ability to feed their people. Africa, despite having the largest share of uncultivated arable land in the world, remains a net food importer. Why? Because the tools of productivity, like fertilizer, have remained under foreign control. To be why building this $2.5 billion plant, Ethiopia is declaring that the cycle ends here. Food sovereignty is about more than having enough to eat. It is about deciding how to grow, when to grow, and at what cost. No more dependency on global suppliers. No more begging donors to finance fertilizer imports. For Ethiopia, this project is a shield against hunger and instability. For Africa, it is a blueprint. Climate change and the future. The timing could not be more critical. Climate change is hitting Africa hard, with unpredictable rains, droughts, and rising temperatures. In such conditions, fertilizer is not a luxury. It is a lifeline. By guaranteeing a steady supply, Ethiopia is building resilience against climate shocks and ensuring its farmers can keep producing even in harsh conditions. Gold is not just a factory. It is a fortress of resilience. That a template for Africa. The Ethiopia Dangote deal is bigger than a single plant. It is a template for what is possible when Africans pool resources to solve African problems. Imagine Angola's oil wealth building fertilizer hubs in the Sahel. Imagine Kenya's tech expertise modernizing agriculture in Malawi. The lesson is clear. Africa has the land, the resources, and the people to feed not only itself but the world. What it has lacked is control over the inputs. Ethiopia's project is a step toward reclaiming that control. The bigger picture: this $2.5 billion fertilizer plant is not just an industrial investment. It is a declaration of destiny. By transforming natural gas into fertilizer, Ethiopia is transforming its economy, its politics, and its future. By partnering with Nigeria's Dangote Group, it is showing that Pan-African cooperation is not just a dream, but a strategy. And by building in gold, it is proving that no region of Ethiopia, and by extension, no corner of Africa, is too remote to be part of the continent's rise.